I'm Rabbi Jay Karzan.
And I'm Rabbanit Ruby Ray Karzan.
And Tape with Rabbi Doug is next.
Go to watch Rabbi Doug on the TV tonight.
Forget about the network programs. Forget about all the great cable shows. There's only one thing for me on Mondays and Tuesday nights. Rabbi Doug.
We're going to see Rabbi Doug. We're going to watch Rabbi Doug. Yeah, we're going to watch Rabbi Doug on your TV tonight.
Shalom and welcome to Taped with Rabbi Doug. Glad you could be with us today. My guest today is author Eva Etzioni-Halevy. She is here from Eretz Yisrael, from Israel, and she has authored the book called The Song of Hannah. And what an interesting book it is, because this is the story from the biblical book of Samuel, the first book of Samuel, about Hannah. And first of all, let me ask you this, Eva. What made you interested in writing about the book of Samuel and the characters in the book of Samuel?
Well, first of all, shalom. And,
shalom and brucha haba'ah.
Baruch hanimtza. This, of course, is the story is read on the high holidays, and each year I listen to the story and I was deeply troubled by it, because here are those two women and they're both aggrieved, but Hannah is presented as a sort of righteous woman, and Pnina is presented as a villain. But perhaps we should talk a little bit about the story.
Well, I do want to do that. I want to talk about the story. I want to talk about the book. So really, you're listening to the story on the high holidays as it's read in the Haftarah, is really what moved you to delve deeper into it.
Yeah, because I thought that Pnina was being done an injustice to, and I wanted to rectify this. This was really the first motivation that I had.
Well, let me tell our viewers a little bit about you. Here you've come all the way to Chicago from Israel to be on my show, which I appreciate so much, and we've been in touch for a long time. You were born in Vienna, in Austria.
That's right.
And your family escaped from there in 1939 when you were a young girl, and you were in Italy and ended up in an Italian concentration camp.
Yeah.
And you remember that well? You were young.
Yeah, I was that little, yes, but I remember it very well. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It was preferable to a German.
And your family went into hiding.
And after that, yes, we went into hiding.
And what kind of hiding did you do? It's such an interesting subject.
We just hid in some little village in the mountains. The Germans by that time occupied the northern part of Italy, and we were there, and we had to hide because they were looking for Jews to round them up for the concentration camps. So we were hiding amongst the Italians.
Wow.
And
how did you end up in Palestine at the time, in Israel?
Well, eventually the Allies liberated us, and we were transported to the south of Italy, and there we were in another camp, in a refugee camp, and until we got what they called a certificate to make aliyah to what was then Palestine, which my parents wanted to do a long time ago, and we finally
had the opportunity.
Yeah.
Very nice. It's really a wonderful thing. You went to a dati, a religious school.
Yes.
Growing up, and you studied sociology at the Hebrew University in Yerushalayim in Jerusalem. And you also went to Tel Aviv University, and you have a PhD in what?
In sociology.
In sociology. So
yes.
That was not only your major, but what you got your PhD in.
Yes.
Very nice. Very nice. So after writing sociology, you decided to write biblical.
Yes.
Very nice. And you've written in both, it's so interesting, you've written in both English and Hebrew. Was English, were you proficient in English when you were in school as a young girl?
Well, I was good in English as a girl, but also I lived in English-speaking countries for quite a few years, and that's where I polished my English.
And how long were you teaching in Bar Ilan University?
About 13 years.
13 years. And now you're Professor Emeritus.
Yes.
Very nice. I just find your biography amazing, all the things you went through, and what a life you've led. You have 2 sons and a daughter grown up, and you live now in Tel Aviv proper?
Yes.
In Tel Aviv proper. And
Yeah.
where did you live when you first went to Israel?
Well, I was in this boarding school, which was near Haifa, and I was there for 3 years. And it was a religious boarding school. I was a very religious child, but as I grew up, I drifted away from religion, from Judaism, and from Israel as well. First, I was in the United States for some years, and later on in Australia. And then after some years, my husband and I, we made a return, a triple return to Judaism, to Israel, and to the Bible.
Balat Teshuvah, very
Yes,
nice. It's very nice. Why don't you tell us, the Song of Hannah is your book, and why don't you tell us the story from Shmuel, from the book of Samuel, about Hannah? It's brief, just a few chapters, and tell us a little bit about Hannah, who she was, and of course we want to know about everybody involved in the story, and that would be Penina and Elkanah, their husband, and Shmuel himself since his birth. Can you tell us a little bit about the history and the story from the book of Samuel?
Well, there was a certain man named Elkanah, and he had 2 wives, Hannah and Penina. Penina had children, and Hannah did not have children. She was barren, but he loved Hannah. And it's made quite obvious in the story that he did not love Penina, he loved Hannah. And it says there that Penina vexed her rival, made her angry. So this is really all that the Bible says about Penina. She's not mentioned again. But Hannah, a bit more is told about her. She went to pray in the temple in Shiloh for a child. And her prayer is answered. She has her son, who then becomes the prophet Samuel. And when she takes a vow to let him grow up at the temple, which she then does. And when he's born, and she brings him to the temple, she then recites the very famous poem, which is called the Song of Hannah, which the novel is called after. A very beautiful poem. And then Samuel grows up in the temple, and when he grows up, he becomes a great leader. He leads the war against the Philistines, the Philistines. And then later on, this is the novel, and then later on he becomes, when he's old, he also becomes what you might call today kingmaker. He anoints 2 kings. First, King Saul, which he's then unhappy about, and then he anoints David.
King David.
Yes, King David. And that's the story of the first book of Samuel, then the reign of Saul until he dies. And but the novel only describes Samuel when he's young. It doesn't. Yeah.
So you decided and thought, obviously, great deeply about what's missing from the Bible, which is what the relationship with Elkanah and his 2 wives, Hannah and Penina, because obviously we know Penina was not happy with Hannah, and there was rivalry between them, Penina having children and Hannah not at the beginning, and so on and so forth. Where did you look to find out what others had to say about this before you wrote this book? Are there midrashim? Are there agada about these people that you looked to really study before you decided that you wanted to embellish?
Well, of course, the midrashim. I studied about those midrashim. I took a little course in Samuel, but I gave my own midrash. I didn't follow the midrash that was there already. Midrash is basically an interpretation, and I thought that I had the right to give my own interpretation, which is maybe a bit more modern, a bit more feminist interpretation. So it had to be original.
So let me ask you this question. Did you write this because you believe what you wrote or because you want to believe what you wrote?
No, I believe very deeply in what I wrote. So somebody asked me once, would you like to do some time travel and go back and meet the people that you wrote about? I said, what do you mean? I felt that I already was time traveling. I already met the people. I felt as if I was there, you know.
Felt their emotions and their feelings.
Yes, absolutely.
What a wonderful way to write a book. I must tell you, this book, The Song of Hannah, is so enthralling. When you read it, you feel like you are reading from the Tanakh itself. You really feel that you're reading from the prophets, and that this is written in the prophets, because the story is so technical and it's so descriptive, and the emotions and the feelings of each character are brought out. You can't tell when you're reading this that you're not actually reading from the Tanakh. And when you go back and look at the book of Samuel, you find that in the Bible it's such a brief portion, and you go into it so deeply. Tell me about the book. Your first section of the book is called "In the Valley of the Shadow of Death." Tell me about that.
As I told you before, I thought that the Bible didn't, the book of Samuel, didn't do justice to Pnina, who was in deep grief for being an unloved woman. Her husband didn't love her. But there's another verse in the Bible which is very sympathetic to an unloved woman. It's from the book of Proverbs, and it says, in part, an unloved woman, when she's taken for sex, shatters the earth.
Can you quote that in Ivrit?
Isha snua ki tiba'el. I don't know exactly the tiba'el.
Okay, I cannot. That's okay. And the message there is?
And the message is that a woman who is unloved and is possessed sexually is really in very deep grief. She's humiliated.
Leah. Rachel and Leah, Rachel
exactly,
and Leah,
yes,
a similar situation, and similar distraught by Leah in not being loved the way Rachel was, even though she was the birth giver of 11 of 13 children.
Well, exactly, and every time the Bible tells about two women like this, you can actually, the jealousy between them is so strong, you can hear it cracking up like thunder in the sky, and that's what I felt about Pnina and Hannah, that Pnina was very deeply grieved, very deeply jealous. And Hannah, of course, was also grieved because of not having a child. So if I had to give a subtitle to my novel, I would say a barren woman shatters the heavens, but an unloved woman shatters the earth. And the story is really about how Pnina shatters the earth by trying to find happiness for herself in a different relationship. But not only happiness, but also human dignity, which she couldn't find with her husband. And this is actually based in the Bible, where you can, in those 2 or 3 brief sentences, it says that Elkanah, he not only loved Hannah, but he showed it off. He gave Hannah a double portion of the food, to shame Pnina. And I think this is very, very humiliating, that the husband not only doesn't in front of everybody.
Why do you think that Shmuel, that Samuel, returned to Pnina when he was so much in love with Hannah? Why did he return?
No, he was Hannah's son.
I don't mean Shmuel. I'm sorry, Elkanah. I'm sorry, Elkanah. I meant to say. Did I not say? Why did he return to Pnina?
Well, he never, neither in the Bible nor in my novel did he ever actually say that he loved Pnina. It's always left sort of open-ended. He never. He wanted her. He was happy with their sexual relationship, but not. But it never came to his actually loving
emotionally
emotional attachment. And so this is really, he had a very different relationship with these two wives. Hannah, he appreciated, he honored her, he loved her in an honorable way, but Pnina in a very different, had a different relationship with her. Yeah.
Your next section in the book is called A New Existence. What is the new existence?
Well, the new existence is for both women. Hannah's new existence is when she has her son, and she's come to
life.
Which
is Samuel the prophet.
Samuel the prophet, yeah. Her grief evaporated. She becomes a new human being, a more generous human being, a more spiritual human being, perhaps. For Pnina, the new existence is that she finds a lover. And then she finds that she can live. Before that, she was just a woman in deep grief in the valley of the shadow of death.
Very interesting. Sons of the Battlefield is part 3. Where does that take us?
It takes us to the war with the Philistines, between Israel and the Philistines, which unfortunately is very similar to what's going on today with the border skirmishes between Israel and the Gaza Strip. The same territory, of course, a very different people, but the same territory, the same problems of where are the borders going to be. And so this is really the story of this war. Both women have sons in the battlefield, and it's a story of great anxiety as they don't know whether their sons will come back.
Right.
From war. When this, of course, happens in Israel
regularly,
unfortunately, and now it's also happening here.
Your children, your own personal children, served in the Tzahal?
My elder son served in Tzahal, yes, and the younger one, he actually, when my husband and I left for Australia, he was just a child, so he didn't, but the older son did.
And so you've felt that same feeling before.
Absolutely, it was
on a personal level.
Horrifying, yeah. Yeah.
Really tough. Really tough. So section number 4 is Samuel's torment. And this is after the war with the Philistines. And tell us what happens in this chapter, in this section.
Well, he grows up and he's tormented by sinful love, and I don't want to tell the readers.
Not everything.
Not to
of
give
course,
away
you want to give away all the hot spots.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but as one reviewer put it, Samuel is blessed with holy wisdom, but cursed with a sinful passion. And this is really the story of the 4th part, how he's tormented, how he's working this through, and then what happens at
Where
the
do
end.
Hannah and Peninnah fall in this part of Samuel's life? Obviously, Peninnah's kind of out of it at this point, am I right? But still in the life of Elkanah.
Oh, in Elkanah's life or Samuel's life?
I'm saying where are they in this period of time?
Yeah, well, it's very, very interesting. The story starts out as a story of hostility and jealousy between the two women. And as I was writing it, it sort of turned itself around without my intending to do it. The two women rebelled and they became friends again. So in the later part of the book, they were friends in childhood. Then there is the hostility between them, and then it becomes a book of redemption through love and friendship between the two.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring that up, because it's such a change from what went on at the beginning of the marriage of Hannah and Elkanah.
Yeah.
And then what happens near the end, how they're completely, it's almost like they were children again in their relationship, that they've found a way to reconcile and be close.
Yeah, exactly. They reconciled, they became sisters by choice. I don't know if they became children, because by that time they were mature women, but they became very close together. They protected each other. And this is the way they survived in a society in which women were really very weak. They had a very weak position. They needed each other to strengthen each other. You know, this is one of the feminist messages of the book, that the women lived in a male-dominated society, which still, in a way, still exists today. And the only way to survive was because they were strong in their character, but also because they banded together and helped each other.
So amazing. In Hannah's epilogue, what is her message that she leaves? I know she's worried about the future of the scrolls she's written in the temple and so on. What is her message at the end in her epilogue?
I think it's to say that this is a story for posterity, you know, that will be preserved for many years. And in fact, as we know, that the story then became part of the Bible. She was the one in my story that saw to it that the book would really become. They didn't call it the Bible then, but that it would become part of the scrolls that were
Holy Scriptures.
Yeah, Holy Scriptures that were placed all over the country and in various scroll rooms. And we know, of course, that in the Beit HaMikdash there was a scroll room where those scriptures were kept.
Why do you think, just, you know, there's a traditional reason, but why do you think that the rabbis chose to read this story on Rosh Hashanah?
I think because the power of prayer, the power of to show that Rosh Hashanah, of course, is when we pray for redemption, or the beginning at least of the prayer for redemption of our sins being forgiven, of coming back, of tshuva, and so forth. And Hannah, in fact, invoked this power. It shows that your destiny is in your hands. You can reach out to the Almighty, and this is when the Almighty is closest, you know, in Rosh Hashanah, when you can reach Him better than any other
without
time.
It being long distance.
Without being long distance, yeah.
Yeah, there's a statement that the rabbis make that it doesn't matter if you're out in a field. It doesn't matter, you know, 3 times a year, the people used to go Aliyat Regel. Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Passover, Shavuot, and the Tabernacle Sukkot holiday, they would go to Jerusalem. So why didn't the Torah tell us that on Rosh Hashanah, that the people should go Aliyat Regel to Jerusalem to be close to God, to the temple? And our rabbis teach us the reason is because God comes down to us. It doesn't matter if you're in a field. It doesn't matter if you're in a shack. It doesn't matter if you're in a city or you're alone. God comes close to us. So God is close to us at that time of year for prayer. And just like that message comes through.
With Hannah's prayer, she managed to get close to God. And in my novel also, it is she makes tshuva. You know, that when she goes and she prays, she realizes that she has wronged Pnina in taking away the love of her husband, and this is the time when she makes the turnaround, makes tshuva, and says, I'm not going to harm her anymore.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
When you sat down and you started writing this, did you think you would end up publishing a book?
Well, I was hoping, of course. I mean, that's why I wrote it.
You knew you were going into a novel rather than a short story or...
Yes. I wanted to write a novel. I wanted to publish it, but there was no guarantee that it would happen.
Well, I'm so happy it's published because I can't tell you how much I learned about the story just reading through the book. The Song of Hannah by Eva Etzioni-Halevy. It's just amazing how you've embellished on the story to make us really understand the characters in the Bible who are so hard to understand. It's really wonderful. Do you have any plans to study a new book from the Bible, whether it's from the prophets or from the writings or the Megillot in the Ketuvim? Is there something that you want to write about next and embellish on a character that we don't know about?
Yes, I've already written it. It's a story of Ruth, the
Really?
Moabite. Yeah.
And have you completed the writing already?
It's I've completed the draft. Yes.
Very
yeah,
nice, very
yeah.
nice. So now you go through the editing process and all the other
Yes,
things that go
yes.
on.
It's a long
Very
process,
nice.
but I have a contract with the same.
Oh, very nice. And you have embellished on the story of Ruth and Boaz and the whole story from the beginning to end with Naomi and everyone. Just you give them personal lives from beginning to end.
Yeah, absolutely.
So wonderful.
I first of all wanted to write an entertaining story so people would read it. You know, this and also in the next novel about Ruth, and you know, just something that people would, you know, open and say, I can't put it down, and I hope that I succeeded.
Do you feel that you have the same relationship with Ruth, that you do with Hannah? Do you feel, did you delve into it emotionally so much that you feel that have same relationship?
Yes, absolutely. But this, of course, was my first encounter, you know, like with your firstborn child. That's a bit, you have a very special close relationship, to this firstborn child. But absolutely, I felt as if I lived in that period. When I write those novels, I somehow feel that I move away from today, which is probably a good thing with all the trouble that's going on, and that I live in the biblical time, in the biblical story, and of course, being in Israel, that helps because I can see the landscapes and the way I can visualize how the people lived in those landscapes.
Well, I hope when the book comes out, Shavuot time would be a good time, because we read it on Shavuot. I hope when the book comes out and you're back in Chicago that we could have you back here again to talk about that book, because Ruth is a character who's been written about by thousands of people, and the way that you embellish and write about someone's life, I've never heard anyone else write about biblical characters like that. I just can't thank you enough for coming here, and I know that our viewers, and we have so many viewers who are novel readers and Bible readers and people who are learned in the Tanakh altogether, will find this wonderful book, a biblical novel of love, temptation, and the making of a prophet, The Song of Hannah, written by Eva Etzioni-Halevy, who is of Tel Aviv, Israel. And I just want to thank you so much for coming to Chicago and being on the show. If you want more information about Eva Etzioni-Halevy and the Book of Hannah, you can check our website. Our website is www.tvrabbi.com. This book is available, and it is a wonderful book, and I hope many of you will have a chance to read it, because you'll be, reading something which is most interesting and most entertaining, and it teaches so much. Eva, I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I wish you hatzlacha in all your endeavors and with your next book. And I want to thank all of you, our viewers, for being with us. Remember, you can email us at info@tvrabbi.com if you have any questions. And be sure to check out our website. We hope to see you next time, same place, right here on Taped with Rabbi Doug. Shalom.
And I'm talking about Rabbi Doug. Talking about Rabbi Doug. Talking about Rabbi Doug on your TV show. Well, he's the rabbi for me. Anytime you need. You're gonna get married or you're gonna die. Gonna see Rabbi Doug. Gonna see Rabbi Doug. Gonna see Rabbi Doug. Gonna see Rabbi Doug on the TV tonight.